Hello, homies, and welcome back to Easily Entertained. I'm Maddie McLean, your host and self-proclaimed pop culture Sherpa, here to guide you through the latest in pop culture, from entertainment news and Hollywood to internet convos and my latest findings from doom-scrolling adventures. I'm doing it for you, my dear homies, because I'm a martyr like that. It is ridiculously good to be back on the pod with you guys. Time is doing its thing and running the fuck away from us all. But I have to say, 2024, the year since we've been apart, has been, as Kylie Jenner might say, a year of realizing things, or put differently, it was, let's say, a year of healing. I am one of God's toughest little soldiers, I'll tell you what, but I would like to politely decline said role or award. I no longer wish to be the toughest soldier out there. So if you know how to submit that claim and for that to go through, let me know. Let a girl know. Because we are an ADHD baddie and have now made that part of our personality ever since we were diagnosed as a nearly 30-year-old, we are constantly looking to improve ourselves, okay? The grind never stops, baby. Allegedly. I need to learn how to executively function, which feels rather condescending, doesn't it? But all that to say, to executively function the shit out of this episode, I have a formula. So let me break it down to you, tell you what's going on, so you can obviously stay sat in your seat and listening to this podcast like a good little. We are going to start with a new to this season segment that I like to call Quietly Losing My Shit. This is where we talk about whatever the media is throwing at us that week, and we can vent about it a little. Basically, think of it like a pop psychology armchair. We're going to be dissecting the current state of the zeitgeist with me as your unlicensed but adorably charming professional. And also perhaps a little bit of your oversharing friend, which allegedly is also an ADHD trait, just by the way, BT dubs. Essentially talking about mental health in the crazy times that we live in the hopes that you can feel a wee bit comfier in the fact that we're all just quietly losing our shit a little bit. Then we will hop into what's streaming, including White Lotus Season 3 in Thailand, which hits home for your girl here. I just got back from a month-long visit, which was literally the best month I've had maybe ever in a long, long time. And we'll talk about the latest Love is Blind season, as well as some Batch Nation updates that you won't want to miss, followed by the lovely pop culture news nuggets. I don't know. We're still workshopping the name for this, but we're going to talk about Elizabeth Holmes' first interview from behind bars, Sean P. Diddy Combs' case updates, and some good news for ASAP Rocky fans. We are not yet a full 2 months through 2025, and we are absolutely the opposite of whatever calm, cool, and collected is. I was going to qualify that with in the US, but honestly, the whole globe seems to be wilding out these days. Although I would say the US is definitely trying to take home the gold for looking like absolute jabronis. For starters, Trump has issued 75 executive orders and counting, and he hasn't even been in office for 2 months. Politics aside, if we just look at his behavior alone, just as a human being, feels very much like a power-drunk, overly competitive child that's having a meltdown, flipping the Monopoly board game over out of frustration and then demanding that everybody around them help clean it up so that they can resume the game. Like, what is going on here? It also, low-key, feels like someone is checking off a kick the bucket list as fast as they possibly can, but who said that? Not to mention the Gulf of America name change. It sounds like much like a post-breakup haircut. A name change tends to be the sign of someone who has been going through it. So I suppose in that sense, it's kind of fitting for us. Anyways, it just, when you know that Elon Musk is being elevated to a position that's unironically named Doge, you know we're fucked. So sometimes, I mean, those Simpsons conspiracy theories that are the Simpsons creators writing our world? I mean, the signs are pointing to yes. The longer we're here, the longer I'm alive. I'm just a sim. You and I were just sims in this little simulation of life. But truthfully, you will literally go crazy keeping up with the news these days, or really just minding your business and existing and owning a smartphone. Perhaps it's a drone UFO sighting all across New Jersey that literally Bethany Frankel was being shushed from talking about on TikTok. Like someone, she claims, reached out to her and told her, hey, we need you to stop talking about all these drones, which now she will call Dior bags in like secret code. Because probably she's stirring up, concern and all of that. But who knows? I don't know. There's lots of shit going on in our airspace, UFO sightings. Okay, they're not UFO, they're drone sightings, but might as well be UFOs for all we know. Or you'll look at your phone, it's the next dystopian move coming out of the White House, or constantly hearing "Say Drake" in your head throughout the day while being both a Drake and Kendrick fan. Which has been, it's been tough these days. Can we just talk about that for a quick sec? If you know me for very long at all, you'll come to learn that I have been a stout Drake fan. So it's been rough. Drake is making it really hard to stick by him, especially when he starts suing Sony, the music label, over this diss track that clearly, obviously, anybody with eyeballs or ears can see that and hear that Kendrick definitely won that fight. But beyond any number of what kind of headline you might be assaulted with on your phone, if you do subscribe to notifications from Apple News or really any app like that, it is out of control. But this is why you either got to turn that shit off, or if you're a martyr like me, you just really have to have a good sense of humor. It's critical. It's crucial these days. If you take everything fully in, your brain simply cannot. So instead of the fear-mongering ones, I just wanted to share some of the more bizarre headlines that I've come across in the last week alone. And hope you get a little bit of a kick out of these like I did. Thieves nab pricey bulldogs from a Colorado pet store after faking a seizure, sheriff says. Colombian police catch a man smuggling packets of Coca-Cola under toupee. And the accompanying photo that I saw, I have a thing with textures, and there's like an actual scientific name for that apparently, but I don't know. Next one, a woman disguised herself with wigs to take UK citizenship tests for others. That's commitment. Don't know how effective that clearly was. Next, can sandals be art? Birkenstock says yes, but a German court says no. Birkenstock's basically trying to lay further claim to their intellectual property. And I guess they were going the route of claiming that it's a piece of art, the Birkenstock, which, as a Birk fan, but a delayed Birkenstocks fan, especially for somebody from Austin, Texas. Truthfully, I got my first pair like 4 years ago, maybe. But big fan. So I guess a German court disagrees, but I say yes, it is a piece of art. And the last one, Michigan judge sentences Walmart shoplifters to wash cars in the parking lot. Did he get that one from my dad? I didn't shoplift, but I feel like that's something my parents would have done. Just give us some work to think about what we've done, While I did miss out on headlines such as these that really bring a little chuckle to my face, I don't know, gives me a giggle. Let's go with that. While these give me a giggle, I took a solid month from news notifications on my phone. At least doesn't mean I wasn't checking it, but just taking those notifications off for that month while I was abroad was low-key life-changing and felt very freeing. But we're back, and reality hits quite hard, I have to say. Thailand was insane. Went with my oldest brother. We're 8 years apart. And we only wanted to kill each other like once a week on the bigger ones, but we did make it. We made it through. Luckily, we're very close. He's been on this podcast, and we have good rebound, Siblings just know the exact buttons to push. They know how to really get you. You know what I'm saying? So we're both just extraordinarily good at that, and we're both Tauruses. Yeah. We're both Tauruses, so stubborn really runs deep. But I have to say, Thailand is also the perfect backdrop for The White Lotus in their latest season. I held off on watching the first episode, but we will jump into talking about that pretty soon here. There aren't any spoilers because, well, I'm watching it live with you. So this is just after watching the first episode. Thailand is a land of, I feel like, juxtapositions. It's such an uber spiritual country with Buddhism kind of weaved throughout just the everyday and in public. There are gorgeous altars throughout the city where people come and pray and lay down these beautiful floral pieces. Monks walking into monasteries, into some of these temples. My favorite kind of visualization of this was seeing this sign for this weed shop next to this monk walking down the street. And it really just kind of accentuates that. The Thai people, I'm obsessed. Within a week, I was pretty much ready to move my life there. Not to say that that won't ever happen. Who's to say? But it's one of those places where you fall in love pretty quick. We started in Bangkok for about 4 days. We were there over New Year's Eve. And despite what you may think, no one gives a shit about Western New Year's Eve, which obviously go figure now. So we definitely made the most of it. It is a overstimulating city for sure, but I feel like it is a can't miss. We started and ultimately ended there too, which was honestly super interesting to see the difference in how overwhelming it was to start with versus ending the trip and being kind of more used to Thailand and used to the flow and the kind of energy of the city. Walking around on those streets, baby, that is not for the weak. So, but by the end of it, I was pretty confident. I just kind of followed a local who knew what they were doing, so that I didn't get hit by oncoming tuk-tuks or anything like that. So from Bangkok, we went to Chiang Mai in northern Thailand for about a week. We went to Koh Samui, which is one of the Gulf Islands, as well as Koh Phangan, where the full moon party is. And we didn't make it to Koh Tao, but that is also a fan favorite for those that have traveled to Thailand, and then ended the trip on the other side in Krabi. And I just have to say, hard to beat the beaches there. It was also a trip that was long awaited. I had planned a whole sabbatical after a few years in the ad agency world, and put my notice in literally 24 hours before the world shut down in March of 2020, and no one saw the inside of an office again for a few years. For me, since then, low-key. Yeah. So my timing was not impeccable, and clearly that trip got pushed. And here we are, 5 years later, got to go on the trip, got to spend it and go with my brother. It all does happen the way it's supposed to. I will tell you that. Not to be that girl that goes all eat, pray, love on you because she got back from her first trip to Southeast Asia, but I am that girl who prayed, loved, and loves Thailand, and I want to go back immediately. So I'm just going to lean into it. And if you hate it, you hate it. But I have to tell you, it's true. It's hyped because for a reason. And people say, the tourists are ruining the country. And yes, there's a lot about it that is annoyingly tourist heavy, but they're doing their best, especially for how many tourists they get every year. Maya Bay, where I think it's Mission Impossible movies. A lot of movies have been shot. It's kind of the most famous beach there. Can't even get fully in the water anymore and stuff. So they're doing what they can, but I'm a tourist too. So complaining about it is pretty stupid. It's kind of like what's happening to Austin, right? At first I resisted. I was like everybody else, and some things, still are annoying as fuck. But you can't stop it. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. The city got popular, and so I stopped complaining as much, I guess, is what I mean to say. And some things you just can't fight. Choose your battles wisely. Your mental space, there's only so much room up there. I was so excited to watch the first episode of the new season of The White Lotus, which was filmed and based in the lovely Koh Samui, Thailand. This is based off of just seeing the first episode. And I have to say, I'm already sat, I'm in my seat, I'm here, and it's going to be another good season. I already can tell. People were initially pissed because of the new opening music, but I have to say it actually slaps. It's really good. I think we'll get into it. I think we'll like it just as much, maybe, as the OG theme music. But I know change is hard. I'm a Taurus. Really what the people are pissed off about is Jen Coolidge not being on the show anymore. However, who's to say she's gone for good? We don't know that for sure. I feel like Mike White has something up his sleeve, so maybe she'll come back, or I don't know, be like a little Jen Coolidge angel on Greg's shoulder. That could be interesting. Also, something I learned relatively recently is that Mike White, who is the director and genius behind the show, he was a contestant on Survivor. It was season 37, David and Goliath. And he has now featured previous castmates and tribe mates from the season that he was on every single season of The White Lotus. Say season one more time, I dare you. He's also Ned Schneebly from School of Rock, so that's pretty iconic. And he competed on 2 seasons of The Amazing Race in both 2009 and 2011 with his dad. So he is a TV man, a man about TV, a TV town man. Now, let's break down our new White Lotus ensemble of guests. We'll start with the lovely age gap couple. We'll call them Chelsea and Rick. And their dynamic is already pretty clearly a relationship that's doomed from the get-go. It starts with the comments that someone thinks that he's her dad, yada, yada. And they're honestly the least interesting of the group, but I think there's something there. There's a shoelace to be tied, shall we say, with the guy Rick, the elder of the two, who was asking around for the owner of the hotel, the White Lotus Thailand, for her husband, who seems to not be there, which pisses him off, and we're not sure why. Then there's the trio of girlfriends, Jacqueline, who is a famous actress and played by Michelle Monaghan. Then you've got Kate, who is, I want to say, she's an actress that I recognize every time I see her, but her name escapes me. Leslie Bibb. But it's a trio of girlfriends. And let me tell you, a trio, especially of girlfriends, I had that situation growing up probably multiple times. It's never good, never good. Someone does always end up. Somebody does always end up feeling left out. And that seems to be what they're building up to here with the last girly pop, Lori, who ironically is an actress that I've never heard of, but she has been in quite a few roles. And then we have the, quote, Southern Charm family, we're going to call them, for a reason you will soon know. The Ratliffs, Timothy and Victoria, are the parents with their kids, Saxon, who's played by Patrick Schwarzenegger, Lachlan and Piper. So the reason we're calling them the Southern Charm family is because allegedly the family is modeled after, they only said, a famous Bravo Southern Charm family, but we're all left to guess that that is the Ravenel family. The notorious Ravenel family, who has a history in Charleston, South Carolina, which is also allegedly where their accent of this family is coming from. And I feel like it does. I mean, I'm no South Carolina expert, but I'd have to say it doesn't sound anything like super Southern, deep South, Louisiana, any of that. Doesn't sound Texan. So ding, ding, ding. That's where I thought too. Somebody give me a prize. But the Ravenel family have deep ties. They're one of those old Southern gentleman families. The guy from the show, Southern Charm, Thomas Ravenel, he is the son of, I think, a congressman or something. Definitely they have political ties. And then he himself, Thomas Ravenel, was the speaker, but he didn't last too long as state treasurer because he was eventually indicted after, I think, 8 months of his role there. In 2007, he was indicted on Coca-Cola distribution charges, and he ended up spending 10 months in prison, which was quite big for the show. He didn't join the show till after that had happened, but he was a notorious, disgraced politician who has a lot of money. And to no one's surprise, he and Shep and the cast, like the OG cast, male cast of Southern Charm, they pitched the show as called Southern Gentlemen. So that makes a lot of sense that they pitched themselves to be on the show. But anyways, he eventually was kicked off the show for other reasons, sexual abuse allegations. So that, further disgraced him, obviously. But that is pretty tea. That's what the family is based on, and it makes sense. So we're following the three of them. Clearly, we see Patrick Schwarzenegger, who plays the older brother, is teaching his younger brother how to be a fuckboy 101. And his sister is there to write about a Buddhist monk for a research paper. And the parents are just, classic rich parents. And it's clear that the guy, the father figure of the family, is hiding something big and potentially losing a lot of money, much like Thomas Ravenel and his family, who lost all of their wealth. So womp womp. And then, of course, we have one of two recurring characters, Belinda, the spa manager from season 1. She is back, and 2, I suppose. Natasha Rothwell is the actress who plays her. And, after all of this really torturous change that they've thrown in our face, seeing something familiar is quite nice, I will say. We also have another familiar face, Greg, who is Jen Coolidge, or Tanya's sketchy husband from the previous season. Yep, he's back, but I think he's going by a different name. He's going by Gary, because we meet his new girlfriend, Chloe, who talks to the woman in the age gap couple. I have to say, from the jump, after only seeing the first episode, I recommend it's worth your time to watch. Switching gears, let's talk about the latest season of Love is Blind, which is quite wild because it is the 8th season. And I'm kind of shocked about that, given how many pending lawsuits that the Love is Blind production teams and, associates are facing. But at least we are being fed in the meantime. Although I do have to agree with the majority of the internet chatter on this one, in that it's rather bland this season in a lot of different ways. But mainly being the problem leading to this is, I think, the city of Minneapolis, no shade. Everyone just knows each other. Just everybody. Everybody knows each other. It sounds like it's a small town in the way that Austin is. That, like, everyone knows everyone if you're from there. And, well, most people aren't from here anymore in Austin. But all to say, that led to all of this drama that was taking place basically outside the show itself and on TikTok. There have been a number of allegations and rumors and all that kind of thing being spread around TikTok, some with receipts, some not, but we'll talk about that and we'll go through kind of each couple. Before we even begin on the couples, the producers, I'll give them this, they heard us when we said we wanted more time in the pods because it was going from 0 to honeymoon in Honduras real quick, and we were missing out on couples that just full-on couple stories that just don't know about them. But somehow still, the first episode drop, 1 through 6, being in the pods. If you haven't watched the season yet, you can probably just go to episode 5, honestly. But it gets good. I'm hanging on. I have faith in this season, and there's some good drama going on. So let's get into it. I'll break it down for you. So if you need a little recap for the latest episodes drop, or you haven't watched it yet, I will help you get caught up. There is also, just a side note, more diversity on this season of The Bachelor on ABC than this. And I feel like that says something. The Bachelor, they try, but they don't usually hit it out of the park. And so it's a little shocking that they are doing better than them. There's also a ridiculous amount of medical industry professionals in here. We've got like an oncology nurse, which, yay, that's great. But it was just kind of crazy. Medical device salesman. We had like 3 other specific types of nurses. So I guess that's what they do up there in the Twin Cities. Let's start with, in my opinion, the least problematic of them. Monica and Joey. They are the first couple to get engaged on the show, and this happens, I think, in the second episode. And then between them and the next set of engaged couples is a while. I think like 2 episodes or something crazy like that. But Monica is adorable. I really don't know anything bad to say about her. I do have something bad to say about her sister, who is clearly jealous of her and really made it clear that she was pissed off that her younger sister is getting married before her. So, but Joey, her fiance, has the thickest Midwest accent I've ever heard. Long Tarzan hair, kind of want to just squeeze his cheeks a little bit, but he clocked it. He clocked her sister's jealousy, and for that I applaud him. That means he's got some serious emotional intelligence. He's intuitive, all that good stuff. These days, kind of rare to find. So that's pretty cool. I think that my best guesstimate is that they will end up together. I think her sister's planning some doubts. They, of course, put in a few teasers that make us wonder, but my initial thought is that they'll probably get married. They both are like the same amount of weird, and I think that that works for them. We'll move on now to Ben and Sarah. Ben, who looks very much like Matt Rife. I don't know why that's not more talked about here. Maybe it is. Maybe it's missed me, but Ben and Sarah. Sarah's also very good looking too. She's a super cute girl. It's funny because they at least admit to this, that they're both like 2 hot people, and yet they went on Love is Blind. So for them to say Love is Blind like feels like wrong, because of course you both are attractive people. So, that helps. But we don't know where that will go, because where Ben's problems, he was not edited to be the problem character. That's our boy Dave, who we'll talk about next. But a TikTok that came out before the season even aired of this girl who was crying. Her name is Andra on TikTok. She has like over 1 million followers. And it's, the classic begins to cry on the internet episode, but she was saying how she had the worst date ever with this guy. She didn't say his name, but the comments figured it out, I suppose. She admitted that they only gone on a few dates, but it was so terrible that she had to have her friends come help her out and get out of the situation, yada, yada. And she heard of all these other stories from other women that came to her. This is in a second video, I guess. And so we see this beforehand, which we're like, okay. So no one really cared yet until we started to see the episodes. And it's interesting because now they did have a scene where Sarah is confronting him about this and is like, is this about you? And he's a little avoidant and says that they went on a date or 2 4 years ago, and he doesn't really remember. I mean, she asked a few questions. She was like, you need to tell me everything. Like, I'm not going to completely negate all of this. So just don't lie to me. And if a woman tells you that, she means that. Yeah. So if you lie after that sentence is spoken to you, you're done. You're done. So we'll see if he's done. He's basically saying it wasn't that big of a deal. He ghosted her and that was it. I don't think that's going to be it, but we will see too. And up until then, they seem to really get along. I thought they're pretty cute. Some people wonder if Ben is closeted. I can see that, but I think he's just like pretty looking. So people say that. You know what I mean? No. Yeah. No, Sarah can do better, sweetheart, actually. Yep. Sarah could do better. She made this big deal about having, standing up for causes she believes in and advocacy and all of this. And Ben didn't seem to have much to say about Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and all of that. He said he doesn't have an opinion. So that's not really a setup for compatibility. And let me tell you, these little things that you ignore in the beginning like that, they'll come back. They don't go away. They just are all saved for a later date. Next couple, and we'll really talk about them as a trio. We've got Dave, the medical device salesman and biggest salesman of horseshit ever, and Lauren and Molly, the trio, the love triangle. Dave, oh, poor Dave, a man who has always based his decisions on women's looks, and he's come here to reform himself, and he wants to be a better man, so he's doing this because allegedly he dates super hot girls, which I struggle to believe. And he's in between 2, Molly being the cute redhead who had never had a boyfriend. Oh, trust me, I've been that girl. That was my whole personality. And I would like lay my life down on how much of a struggle that was for years. I think I was 26. I don't even remember, but yeah, for a long time, it had flings and things, and she too seems to make that her personality. God bless her, she'll learn one day. And then Lauren, who he does ultimately choose, she's a teacher, and she kind of is the embodiment of a teacher type personality, honestly. She's super cute. She's girl next door. She's seems to have her shit together, except when it comes to men. Because for her internet drama is kind of hilarious. For starters, so this guy also put out a TikTok before the season was available for streaming, so no one had seen it yet. He's like, I was dating this Love is Blind contestant, Lauren, and we were dating right up until she left 48 hours before. Just in my mind, a very clear clout chasey, grab attention kind of way. The man made his own Love is Blind, fake Love is Blind poster and has faked like he's going to get on a podcast and like tell all. So that tells you the kind of man we're dealing with here. This is the man that now is the center of all of this drama where Dave can't seem to get over the fact that Lauren, who has said so many times, I feel so bad for her, that they were not serious. They were just friends with benefits, hooking up, doing their thing, and she knew she wasn't going to end up with him. So how's it any different from him, who admitted to also having dated recently before going on the show too? Like they're both single. In my mind, he's using this as an excuse to leave her and is setting the scene, which is one of the most annoying things anyone can do. I was going to say a man because it's usually that side that's doing it, but it could go either way. That start to annoy you and cause these issues so that you do the breaking up so that they don't have to do it, just push you to the brink. So that's annoying, and I feel super bad for Lauren. He's clearly checked out of the relationship, saying he knows this mutual guy too that is claiming they have dated more seriously than Lauren is saying they did. And ultimately, I think that's his going to be, quote, reason to leave her, even though he can just say he's not into her and that he probably saw Molly's Instagram and decided he should have chosen her is my, it seems to be the obvious theory here. Next up, we'll talk about the trio, but then the finalized duo, Devin and Virginia and Brittany. Devin is ibuprofen poppin' Devin. I say this because in all seriousness, his trauma dump, every character, every person in the show has to like go through a trauma dump, obviously, because that's how you get to know them. And in every dating show, The Bachelor, extra guilty of this too, is that he struggled with a ibuprofen addiction, ? I don't know if that's code for something else, but he was very committed to the ibuprofen part. And it would have, if I was sitting on the other side of that wall, hearing that, it would take everything within me not to start laughing out loud. But he was deciding between Virginia and Brittany. Virginia is gorgeous, first of all, like stunning woman. She seems super sweet. She is a woman of faith, and that seems to be very important to her, and they bond on that. But I don't know much else about her, honestly, and I don't think the show does either. Like, that's kind of all I have to say. But she seems super sweet. They seem to be very in love. But he was about to choose or considering choosing Brittany, who was also a youth basketball coach. And ultimately, what split them apart was Brittany opening up to Devin and telling him that she is bi and has dated women in the past. And he didn't take that too well. So she ultimately ended it, and he did the whole, yeah, I agree. That's what we should do. And I was going to do that too thing. But yeah, I'm anxiously awaiting for the whole cast and crew to get together. That's literally the best part of the season. The next couple we have is Daniel and Taylor. Daniel is the short king, allegedly. I think he's like average height, but he keeps labeling himself as a short king. He's got beautiful blue eyes, and he and Taylor also super beautiful. A lot of these people are just super attractive. I kind of want some Uggies on the show because it is Love is Blind, isn't it? Like, what? Anyways, Taylor, another gorgeous human being. I think she's a nurse too. After the big reveal, she is concerned that they may have seen each other already and that Daniel had previously friend requested her, I guess, on Instagram. And so she's like, everything's on there, Daniel. Taco Bell, Faith, Christmas, dogs. And I can't help but laughing because these are like things that a lot of people like as well. But she uses this as her like hard evidence that he's known this whole time and has basically gone to Love is Blind to date her and manipulate her into choosing him, was pretty much the theory. And they left us on that cliffhanger on the first set of episodes. We come back to learn the producers give her phone back and allow her to check her followers app. You get notified every time somebody unfollows you and then follows you as well. So they spend way too long. That's the problem too. They spend way too long in each scene. We didn't need to sit for a full 30 seconds as she scrolled through this app for 30 seconds on precious airtime or Netflix time, whatever, precious episode time, scrolling through her followers app to come to the conclusion that he did not, in fact, friend request her in the past. So they were allowed to continue to the honeymoon in Honduras. The love square that didn't make it out alive at all is Madison, Mason, Meg, and Alex. By the way, these names are also all very good all-American names. Madison, who at first I have in my notes, because yes, I take notes when I watch for you. Madison, I was like, oh, she seems pretty cool, down to earth, very interesting. I think I like her. And then immediately was proved wrong. Turns out she is definitely a manipulative little girly pop. She was dating both Mason and Alex, who, I mean, they all are kind of hard to distinguish, but Mason was also dating two people, Meg and Madison. Madison was dating two people, Mason and Alex. Nobody got out of that love square alive. Basically, Madison started by just kind of off the jump, diving into all of her really traumatic sounding childhood and growing up and all the people she's lost. Sounds like she's gone through a lot. But she also is just outright telling everybody that she is anxiously attached. No, wait, the opposite of anxiously attached. She's avoidant. And Alex, one of the guys she's dating, is stating how that sounds like that could be a problem, especially given he is anxiously attached. And that's how you get a really unhealthy, toxic relationship. So he was wanting to avoid that and seemed kind of hesitant the whole time. But Madison did kind of end up playing both Alex and Mason until it blew up in her face and she left without a ring on her left hand. And then I feel like sabotaged Meg's chance and relationship with Mason after making it very clear that Mason did say that Madison was his number one and then went around and told Meg that she had always been his number one. So that is something we have to keep in mind here. Nobody's getting out of here unscathed. Madison even said breakups, quote, taste good. So that kind of tells you what kind of girly pop she is. I can't wait to see more from her in her new hot pink hair. Alex has also had some pretty sketchy allegations on TikTok that probably, I don't want to spread if I don't know, are correct, but just look that up on TikTok and you'll know what I'm talking about. But just sketchy things and, kind of predatory. Love is Blind casting is definitely not doing super great. And this is the first season that Chelsea, previous contestant who married Kwame, and they're still together, but she is now in charge of Love is Blind casting. We'll see if she lives for another season doing that after this. But hopefully things pick up in the next few episodes. It's still worth the watch. I'm still entertained. I'm here talking about it. So I'm still watching regardless, just like I do for every season. To wrap up our reality TV news, in Batch Nation, there is not going to be a Bachelorette season in 2025 this summer like we have had for many years past. And the kind of, I guess, politically correct answer that ABC has given us is that essentially they've given that time slot, that space to The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, because it's the same audience that's watching both shows, allegedly. But, of course, did some more digging, and a few things came from a podcast hosted by Ashley and Ben, some Batch Nation alums, that's not so much the reason that they did have a Bachelorette chosen, and they were already starting to get ready for filming. They're scoping out where they're going to go in Europe and all of that stuff for the travel episodes or whatever. But then they ultimately canceled it because the lead backed out, not confirmed, that it was going to be Maria again. Maria from Joey's season, who quickly became a fan favorite, was on Call Her Daddy. Everybody loved her. Firecracker of a girl, super beautiful, great fits. It would be a good season regardless, because she's a firecracker and because she's definitely drama and more about the messy. I don't think it would be I don't think she's looking for a husband, but it also, I don't know how quick I am to believe that, because Jin was not the original Bachelorette. Jin was chosen late in the game, very, very late in the game. That's why they kind of slapsticked some promotion together for her season, poor girl, because Maria backed out super late in the game already. So I don't see them taking a risk and doing that again, but who knows? And allegedly whispers are that it was either going to be her or Rachel Recchia from back in, she did a duo season with Gabby, who's now on Traitors and is getting her flowers because Gabby is one of the funniest humans, much less, on Bachelor Nation, but also just on Earth, and who ended up becoming a lesbian and is dating this super also hilarious comedian, Robbie. Anyways, it was either going to be her and one of those two, Rachel or Maria, but both backed out, I guess. I don't know. It could have been possible that usually they would pick a girl from the current Bachelor season, so Grant's season that's airing right now, but it seems like none of the girls there were chosen. Maybe they will be whenever Bachelorette comes back, but essentially the one that we will get after Grant's season is another Golden Bachelor. So that did really well for them money-wise, so I can see why they're prioritizing that. And we will be getting, I think we will be also getting a Bachelor in Paradise, which we skipped last year. So little change to the Batch Nation schedule, but there you have it. And now for our pop culture news nuggets of the day, of the week, of whenever you're listening to this right now. So Elizabeth Holmes, everyone's favorite female Steve Jobs impersonator and convicted scam artist, and also, disgraced Theranos CEO, has graciously spoken with People magazine for her first interview in prison. Although the in prison part is important because after scrolling through the article, I came across photos from two separate photo shoots that she and her growing family did with People previously. So she's not exactly been under the radar, but we'll give her that. It's still her first. She's now spent time in prison, and by the way, her sentence is only 10 months, which seems kind of crazy. She thinks being in prison is kind of crazy for her to begin with. Seems like not how you should feel about this anymore, given it did affect real people's health and lives and all of that. But you know what? It's what gets her through. So her prison sentences were actually delayed twice because each time she had become pregnant, which she did refer to in the article, saying, "I know how the optics look, but I always wanted to be a mother. I truly did not think I would ever be convicted or found guilty." Ma'am. I think she needs to watch the Hulu series that is based on her story. Maybe that would help jog her memory. We'll continue on with the interview. If you want to know what her daily life has been like, I'll tell you. Each morning, she wakes just after 5 a.m., eats fruit for breakfast, then does her 40-minute daily workout, lifting weights, rowing, and running on a track. By 8 a.m., she's at the education building, earning 31 cents an hour as a re-entry clerk, helping women slated for release to write resumes. That's nice. And prepare to apply for tax credits and other government benefits. So many of these women don't have anyone, and once they're in there, they're forgotten, she says. Between roll calls 5 times a day. Wow. Holmes also works as a law clerk, helping women to secure compassionate release as well as teaching French classes. So at least she's spending her time wisely over there. That's good. Scheduled for release in the spring of 2032, Holmes says she hopes to travel with her family and to fight against injustice in the legal system. She recently drafted proposed legislation to bolster the presumption of innocence. This will be my life's work, she said. And despite her global reputation as a biotech con artist who put lives at risk, she says she continues to write patents and plans to resume her career in healthcare technology. Gotta give her flowers for the persistence here. For now, however, she is sustained by weekend visits from her family when she can cuddle Invicta, watch William gather acorns in the prison yard, and hold Evans's hand. Conjugal visits are not allowed. It kills me to put my family through pain the way I do, she says, but when I look back on my life and these angels that have come through it, I can get through anything. It makes me want to fight for all of it. Well, that's sweet, isn't it? She and the Billy McFarlands of the world, Firefest, the famed Firefest owner, CEO, bringer of terror, however you want to call it, who has already spent time in prison. He's back out, and he is literally back at it again with a planned of this year, May 2025, Firefest 2 in Mexico. So all of this info coming out about scam artists, we clearly have an obsession with it, and it makes sense because these people are able to dupe so many others to get to this kind of level of fraud, you know? Also, lest we forget, she is in the same prison as Real Housewives of Salt Lake City's Jen Shah, another scam queen. Speaking of felonious celebrities, felonious? Felon celebrities. Celebrities involved with felons. Lawsuits, allegedly. P. Diddy, or Sean Combs' most well-renowned lawyer, or probably notorious would be the better word, very emphatically and publicly dropped Diddy as a client. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. I'm no lawyer, but lots of lawyer friends, so they can help me out here. This in particular is quite shocking, not only for clearly the amount of money that he has got to have been paid to represent Diddy, but also because he literally represented Osama bin Laden. Okay? So something tells me that this lawyer, Anthony Riccio, who filed a motion, by the way, let's back it up. Anthony Riccio filed a motion, and in that motion said, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs. Of course, under client privilege, no details are shared, and we probably won't hear the exact reason why. But it's probably safe to say that it's because of the evidence that has actually recently been unveiled, at least to the lawyers. And something tells me he saw something on there that he can't unsee. And he's not willing to literally represent the devil, which I fear the more details that come out about this and what we're going to hear is going to be pretty, well, obviously tough to hear, but insane. I think it's a lot worse than we even fully know, because this lawyer that represented Osama bin Laden can't do it with Diddy. Mind you, still has literally 5 other lawyers on his case. So he's not left without any representation. But it does all become kind of oddly connected because Anthony Riccio is ASAP Rocky's lawyer, who we'll get to in just a second. But staying on this Diddy case and the latest that's going on, by the way, I can do a whole deep dive episode on it. It has now gotten even more complicated, and there are over 40 lawsuits, and they're all moving across desks and such. But also recently, both Diddy and Jay-Z's attorneys are now suing Tony Busby. Busby was a Texas lawyer who filed upwards of 20 or so lawsuits on behalf of dozens of victims. One being this Jane Doe case that Busby served against Jay-Z was recently voluntarily dismissed, which is an interesting thing to note. But that's how Jay-Z was brought into all of this, was through this Jane Doe case that Busby brought. So now, they're retaliating and going after Busby. However, to note, Busby improperly filed a bunch of these lawsuits, allegedly. He doesn't have permission to do so in the New York district, and that can be allowed, but you have to get permission, express written probably commission from a judge to do that, and he didn't do that either. So came across, let's see, in the Hollywood Reporter, it says the complaint, first filed in October in New York federal court against Combs and later amended to add Carter, Jay-Z, revolved around claims that rap moguls R-worded an underage woman at a house party after the 2000 MTV Music Video Awards in New York. The Jane Doe accuser was represented by Busby, who's filed dozens of lawsuits on behalf of accusers advancing sexual assault claims against Combs. Carter, in his ex post, called Busby a, quote, 1-800 lawyer who, quote, gets to file a suit hiding behind Jane Doe. He called for courts to, quote, protect the innocent from being accused without a shred of evidence. In December, U.S. District Judge Annalisa Torres denied Carter's move to dismiss the lawsuit and allowed the Jane Doe to proceed anonymously, with the caveat that she may be required to reveal her identity if that case proceeds. She also denounced what she described as, quote, combative motions and inflammatory language from Alex Spiro, a lawyer representing Carter in court filings. Carter's lawyer's relentless filing of combative motions containing inflammatory language and ad hominem, very judgy, attacks is inappropriate, a waste of judicial resources, and a tactic unlikely to benefit his client, Torres wrote. The court will not fast track. So they'd been publicly battling already, but now that case, that particular case we just talked about, has been voluntarily dismissed. So we'll see what happens there, but it sounds like that one's a wash. And we'll see what happens with the rest of Busby's lawsuits and the other lawsuits that are not filed by Busby that are currently under investigation. And of course, Diddy's lawyers are doing their jobs, so they're filing to dismiss many of the charges in whatever way they can, including the evidence that was recovered from the feds' raids on his Miami and LA homes. We learn more and more just how small Hollywood really is, because when the news broke that Diddy's lawyer Anthony Riccio stepped down, A$AP Rocky's lawyer Joe Tacopina was asked to step into Diddy's case and kind of take his place, but Joe Tacopina, A$AP Rocky's lawyer, ultimately declined because of his, quote, close connections and ties to Jay-Z and Rock Nation. Also, not a great look these days. I don't think Jay-Z's innocent by any means. I think that maybe he'll get out of that lawsuit, and he has, but based on all of the photos, the many photos and historical, like, best friendship, his whole, we haven't been friends in a long time, we've separated ourselves from him a while ago line is just fake news. But we'll see. And under a court of law, A$AP Rocky gets into all of this because his assault trial just ended this week in a not guilty verdict, followed by a now famously memed moment of him leaping over the gallery into the arms of Rihanna and his mom that only his years of stage diving prepared him for. It was like a perfectly formed swan dive, really. I guess he got away with that because he's A$AP Rocky, but our man is free. Our man is free and has already been featured on Metro Boomin's latest single and references the whole trial. But to give you some background here, A$AP Rocky, or Rakeem Mayers, he was charged with 2 felony counts of assault with a semi-automatic firearm. Let me just read this from the New York Times because it is very confusing, truthfully. And I think they'll say it better than me. So this trial stemmed from an account from Terrell Efron, or A$AP Rally, who alleged that they got into a fight near the Hollywood Hotel in 2021 and that A$AP Rocky pulled out a gun during the altercation, and that allegedly a bullet grazed A$AP Rally's, I think he literally said knuckles, off his right hand. That was the whole allegation. But throughout trial, there was no gun presented as evidence, which is interesting. And Rocky did not ever take the stand in his defense. But essentially, there was no evidence that that's what led them to the not guilty verdict. There were no bullet holes, blood, damage, or shell casings. So it sounds like it was a potential setup, but I don't know how it would get that far if that was the case. And now the good news just keeps on rolling for him. The fits he would put on. He would pull up to trial in looking, already he's a beautiful, gorgeous man. But his fits really did put everyone in a chokehold. I mean, he would do, just by the way, this sentence does sound crazy, but throughout his courthouse paparazzi walks, he would stop and show off his designer fits that one might expect from a previous Met Gala host. But throughout all of these photos and in every outfit, one thing remained the same, and those were his Ray-Ban shades. Ray-Ban used those photos in their press release to announce that A$AP Rocky is now tapped as their first ever creative director. And he's focusing on what I'm just learning about now, their music-centric subdivision, Ray-Ban Studios. And now, hopefully, that gives him and Rihanna some time to make new music, respectfully. That's what we've got today. That is the show. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so excited to be back. I am so grateful for all of the support. I love you, homies. And be sure to check out the new website at www.easilyentertainedpodcast.com and follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Until next time, bye.